Contribute to the #PuckStrong movement for mental health in hockey athletes by watching the video, tweeting the hashtag, and sharing your stories on the website. It's that time once again, folks. Let's talk about Chris Tanev trade rumors, in particular, the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is a topic that has been presenting itself throughout the past, let's say, year? I want to say year, because even back in the beginning of the season, the earlier months of the season, it was always Tanev to Toronto or Tampa Bay, and Goodbranson would get shoved into those rumors as well. Goodbranson maybe to Toronto, the Islanders or whatever. We got Atlantic and Metro teams bidding for our right-handed defensemen throughout the years, so obviously this is something that isn't necessarily new, but at the same time this is an entirely new aspect to this potential situation that we got here. And if we want to take a look at this, we got to take a look at this article that was published on rawcharge.com. This is a Tampa Bay Lightning news sports fan section website, basically. This is, Canucks Army is for Canucks fans. This website here is for Tampa Bay fans. And in this article, they're talking about Botchford. Botchford, you guys know Botchford, right? He was apparently talking on the TSN 1040 radio show about how Steve Yzerman, the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning, has apparently consulted the Canucks about Chris Tanev. And obviously, as I said before, this isn't anything that surprises most of us Vancouver Canucks fans, but it's just that now that it's on the radio, it's up in the air, it's something that we have to talk about once again. And it was highlighted in the news broadcast that apparently what they were willing to give up was either one of Slater, Koekkoek, or Jake Dotchin, both of which are 24-year-old Tampa Bay Lightning defensemen who haven't really had any super high chances to prove themselves. Sure, they've played a few games, a lot of games actually, in the NHL with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they're not necessarily considered equals upon the level of Chris Tanev's caliber of play. And so obviously, first impressions, just listening to that, oh my goodness, we're actually going to get robbed if that happens. Don't trade with Stevie Y. That's basically like a big just rule of the NHL, because Steve Yzerman wins trades, which is something that has been showing itself in the past, which means that if Jim Benning were to trade with Steve Yzerman, we probably would get ripped off. But I digress. Let's actually take a look at this, talk about Chris Tanev going to the Tampa Bay Lightning for a little bit, what this means for the Vancouver Canucks, what this means for the Lightning, and what we could probably see coming back. So if Chris Tanev goes over to the Tampa Bay Lightning, there are a few things that we could expect coming back, but for the sake of argument, let's just go over to the Tampa Bay Lightning subreddit and take a look at some of the propositions that they made themselves. Assuming that the Tampa Bay Lightning don't give up a roster defenseman, the proposed pairings of the lines go, pairing 1, Hedman, Strawman, okay, that's a great pairing. Pairing 2, Ryan McDonagh and Chris Tanev, oh my goodness, that's an amazing second pairing. And a third pairing, Mikhail Sergachev and Dan Girardi. Just that defensive core alone is arguably the best in the league. Behind, let's say, Nashville's. You could even say it's better. And, oh my goodness, if the Tampa Bay Lightning refuse to give up one of Strawman, Hedman, McDonagh, or Sergachev in a Tanev trade, they're actually set. Seriously. Their defensive core is set for the next, 2-3 years. McDonagh and Tanev, oh my goodness, that would be an incredible pairing. And, for the sake of argument, let's just assume that this does happen. The Tampa Bay Lightning are obviously definitely in a better position to win the Stanley Cup than ever before. They made the conference finals in the most recent playoffs, and next season, if Tanev comes over to Tampa Bay, things are just going to be even more guaranteed for them, possibly even stepping into the finals once again. Look at what Nashville's defensive core did for them in 2017. It was incredible, and obviously I could see the same things happening out of a Chris Tanev-filled Tampa Bay Lightning D-core. But other than that, what exactly does this mean for the Vancouver Canucks? Well, if the Vancouver Canucks trade Chris Tanev and we don't get a roster player back, we get a young guy back or whatever, this basically insinuates the rebuild to even greater lengths, because Chris Tanev was a part of a terrible Vancouver Canucks defensive squad. Chris Tanev was also very good defensively. So this means that if you take the really good defensively sound Tanev and remove him from an already poor Vancouver Canucks D-core, you get an even worse D-core. And I really don't like saying that, guys. I like our players. I like the Vancouver Canucks. But Tanev's gone. We don't get a roster player back. We suck. We suck even more. And we're just in a better position to lose for Hughes. Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser come into the league, maybe get 80 points each, and we still give up 5 goals a game, and we still finish last in the league. Something like that probably happens, let's face it. But all joking aside, Chris Tanev leaving the Canucks leaves a big hole on defense unless we're able to get some guys in free agency, grab a few more guys from a few other trades. Our D-core is going to be bad, because the fact of the matter is Stevie Y is not going to give up one of his roster defensemen for Chris Tanev in a Tanev trade. As I said, Dotchin, Koekkoek, not necessarily roster NHL players. They did play NHL games, but they're not necessarily the regulars. In fact, guys like Braden Coburn and Dan Girardi are guys who are more suited in the NHL uniform, according to basically how Tampa Bay has deployed them. So let's just talk about things right away. If it's Koekkoek or Dotchin for Tanev, 1-for-1, my goodness, what are we doing? Things are not going the way we need them to. We're going to need to add assets. Tampa's going to have to give up picks, maybe some young guys or whatever, to compensate alongside of a Koekkoek or a Dotchin with Tanev. But, in my opinion, Vancouver Canucks fans haven't even really been wanting Koekkoek or Dotchin from the Lightning. Because if we trade Tanev over to the Lightning, the Vancouver Canucks fanbase is going to demand immediately Cal Foote or Radish. One of the two, maybe even both. Because these guys are the young guys of the next generation of hockey. Now don't get me wrong, I don't want to say that they're generational, franchise, elite, or whatever. I'm just saying that they're pretty good prospects with some pretty fair upside. And this is totally something that Vancouver Canucks fans would want to see. Hey, Tanev got traded to the Lightning for Cal Foote. That's great. Cole Lind is a Kelowna Rocket. He played with Cal Foote. Hey, we have a chance to draft Kelowna Rockets center Kyle Topping in the upcoming NHL entry draft. If we grab ourselves Cole Lind last year, Kyle Topping in the draft this year, and a Cal Foote from the Tampa Bay Lightning, things are looking like a Kelowna Rockets reunion over here. That would be cool. And, obviously, Cal Foote's got more to him than just being a Kelowna Rocket. He's legitimately a good prospect with some good upside, but the fact that he is good brings up a lot of arguments from the Tampa Bay Lightning fans saying, yeah, no, we're not trading Foote. He's an untouchable for us. Which is totally fair to understand. But it's understandable as well to note that Chris Tanev is equally as valuable to the Vancouver Canucks today than Cal Foote appears to be going forward within the Lightning's future plans. Hey, but what about Taylor Radish? Taylor Radish is a right winger playing in, let's say, the OHL, because that's where he finished up his most previous season. He had a pretty good final OHL season, 39 points in 28 games with the Greyhounds. That's his second team of the year. With the Erie Otters in the most previous season, 44 points in 30 games played, for a grand total of 58 games played and a whopping 83 points. Pretty good. Pretty good for the overager, right winger, and now he's going to be playing with the Syracuse Crunch foreseeably in the future next season, unless he is traded. But Radish is another guy who Vancouver Canucks fans are going to be looking at and saying, hey, if we give Tanev to you guys, would we be able to get a Radish coming back? Because, let's face it, all the Tampa Bay Lightning prospects who are really good are already on the team. Braden Point, Sergachev, and all of them were prospects just a few years ago and are now bona fide NHL point-producing machines. So all we have to look at is guys like Foote, Radish, and let's say Otto Sompi as well. So in conclusion, the Vancouver Canucks trading Chris Tanev to the Tampa Bay Lightning would almost immediately result in us getting robbed. I'm gonna say it right now. If we traded Tanev for Koekkoek and like something else, a seventh, I'd honestly be pissed off about that. Because I don't see the need to trade a Chris Tanev if we're not going to get a bona fide good prospect or a good young guy coming back. Because Tanev is a guy with value, arguably the best defensive defenseman in the league at suppressing shots and all that. So, Tanev is a guy that demands assets back. And obviously, I established it before, trading with Steve Yzerman is not necessarily a smart idea because he usually wins trades. And considering Jim Benning's history of losing trades in the past, I don't know if I'd want to explore that option. But nevertheless, this is still something that has presented itself. Chris Tanev could potentially be on the move to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this has been something that we've been talking about for the past few months already. Hope you guys enjoyed this Swedish Plus National Trolls like that's just saying gaming, and bye.